Many of your pieces are your interpretation of urban pop culture. Artists are blessed with the gift of observation, right? What have you observed is the reason for the absence of inner peace for your generation?
What have I observed as the reason for the absence of inner peace in my generation? I would say comparison, and I would also say brainwashing.
Break down the comparison first before we get before we get on the brainwashing.
For sure, for
What
sure.
else you have to say about this?
Comparison is like, we grew up in a time, and I caught the tail end of it, but current, young people grew up in a time where you could know everything about everyone instantly, right? You could know what she looks like, where he lives, who they hang out with, their birthday, what kind of clothes they have, what kind of car, job, all this stuff. If you're not doing half or even a fraction of so-and-so's highlight reel, now you start to diminish your self-worth, and you dig inward and inward and inward and inward, and you basically cave in on yourself if you're not careful. And once you cave in, you're kind of just sitting there like a little dent in the ground, and people just walk around you or walk over you, and that's that, So we shouldn't know like all the things we know, and it's only going to get like, things are in motion to where we'll all just know everything, and I don't think that would be great.
But the question I have is that even though there's shortcomings in certain areas, there is a brilliance in this generation that wasn't in the previous generation. So you just said yourself, you mentioned the word highlight reel. Mm-hmm. Do people not understand this is a highlight reel, or are they internalizing what they're seeing as if it's real?
I think it's both, for sure. Because like, even when I say highlight reel, I don't really have that in mind. When I'm like, damn, that's harder than mine. I'm not thinking that like, I'm just not thinking that, because I think it's presented so flawlessly and so perfectly. You're just almost like immersed in this illusion. You know what I mean? And it's in the palm of your hand.
And you mentioned brainwashing earlier.
For sure.
Can you elaborate on that, please?
For sure. I think it has a lot to do with the highlight reel, but I think now more than ever, honest opinions are definitely discouraged, positive or negative. And I think because of that, sometimes people just get caught up in whatever the group is saying.
All right. Why do you say honest opinions are discouraged?
Cancel culture, I don't say anything on social media, I don't say anything. Because it's like, we could be having a conversation about whatever we're talking about, and in our world it makes sense and it's fun and it's peaceful and it's love, but depending on how you might hear it, someone really, really, really might be hurt by that. And I wouldn't even want to hurt anybody's feelings, so like that's why I don't say anything. But the internet is it's a living thing. So I think that's what it comes down to. The internet is on this generation.
All right. So I'm glad you're here, right? You're talking on behalf of your generation. How does that make you feel when you're constantly not being true to yourself? Because you said you don't want to make a negative or a positive comment, but you have all these things inside.
Right.
And I take it when you do interact, it's not your true self, because you don't want to offend anyone.
Right.
So what does that do internally, or has anyone in you have you and your peers spoken about what that does internally, or have you reflected on what that does to you internally when you're not being your true self?
For sure. Now, I spoke about it with a couple, I would just say creators. And the only way I can do it is if I disassociate, like, this is a tool. This is an app on my phone. I do something with my thumbs, and then I go do what I actually do in real life, which is make art and show love. You know what I mean? Keeping that separate from me keeps me where I need to be at. Now, some people understand that with it being a tool, if you sprinkle a little bit more of this, the tool might give you more reward. And then I started to realize, like, what does that actually mean, right? If you have 100,000 followers, what does this actually mean in your life?
Yeah, so I'm glad you spoke on that. I think there's a misunderstanding between, especially for a creative person or a business person, followers and transactions, followers and sales. There's no connection at all. And you can be doing very well with 2 followers,
Yeah.
and you just have a good clientele of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Please speak on that, because I know you experienced that, bro.
100%. I mean, it's a little different for me because as a painter, I would say a fine arts painter, I have roughly 10K followers, right? Out of those 10K, how many of them do you think can afford one of my paintings, right? And on top of that is looking to buy while I have it. You're looking at maybe like 10 to 15 people. You know what I mean? So it's like at that point, this is just a machine that'll hopefully bring something else in something like this. You know what I mean? Like, it's a tool to like connect, but outside of that, it has nothing to do, especially with the money I'm getting. So that's the last thing it has to do with. So yeah.
I think I just think that's the deception everybody's kind of running with, you know.
And I get it, because I feel like if you don't have it, you're looking at it like it's some big thing, because you don't have it. And then once you get it, you're like, oh, this doesn't mean anything. I don't feel any different. This is nothing. These people might not even be real or looking at me, you know? So yeah.